Hello, BookTube. I have a Friday Reads video for you. I haven't done a Friday Reads in a bit, or at least it feels that way. I've got 6 books I want to show you, and in this case, I have read none of them. Not read them, period, not read them kinda, sorta. I haven't read any of them. They're all on my docket. They're all really soon, so they need to be done. The first one is by prominent cable news talking head Neil Katyal, and it's his book, Impeach, the case against Donald Trump. This comes out in late November, and it is a thin thing. It'll take an hour to read, and it's just his summary of what we know so far that makes a case for impeaching Donald Trump for high crimes and misdemeanors, for bribery and extortion. And I stress what we know so far because I know for a fact that we're going to learn a lot worse stuff than we already know. Stuff that, as many news commentators have pointed out, there is a core of people who believe in Trump as a god. No hyperbole at all. They've said so. They've said they trust him more than they trust Jesus Christ. They believe in him as a god. Nothing will ever change that, no matter what he does. So there's a huge chunk of the electorate that will not change their mind on this guy no matter what. And that's embarrassing. That's ripped families apart. It's really shameful. It really is shameful. It was so kind of macabrely interesting in 2016, early 2017. Now it's shameful. Now it says something about your psychoses, if you are such a person. But the rest of the public, the rest of the public is going to learn more. I mean, this book is already dated. Even that's the problem with Trump books, is that they come out dated. They arrive in news stores already behind the times. Just today, the president live tweeted personal and professional attacks on a diplomat who was testifying at that moment in front of Congress, setting up the whole world, including Fox News, saying that it's witness tampering. It's pretty clear witness tampering. So that's another crime, and that's a crime that Neil Katyal didn't know anything about when he wrote this book and when it went to press. And I guarantee you, the whole raison d'etre, the whole main argument of diehard Republican defenders of Trump has been that it's sort of an evolving idea that he wasn't directly aware that there was this rogue trio or rogue group of people taking things too far. And that isn't true. Anybody that knows anything about how the Trump organization has worked for 35 years knows that every single little thing is not only approved by Donald Trump, but thought up by him. And there's always a trail, because this guy is really, really dumb. So there's always evidence. So I mean, I will read this, but it's going to feel like yesterday's news, even though it's not out yet. Then the next book is surprisingly small. This is also a December release, I believe. Are you going to tell me when you are? You're not going to tell me when you come out. Amazing. The pub sheet does not tell me when this comes out. Right, well, it's useless to me then. But I believe it's not out yet. I think this is a December release. This is by Geir Lundstad, and it is the world's most prestigious prize. It's a history of the Nobel Prize, up to and including the scandals that have rocked it recently. It's a tiny little thing. You'd think that a history of the Nobel Prize would be much bigger, but maybe not. Maybe it's a mercy that it's so small. Then this next one is... it is a version of A History of America, but it is nevertheless a Trump book. It's by J.M. Fenster, and it is called Cheaters Always Win, The Story of America. And this is, I think, also a December release. Early December, and this is a history of how cheating, unethical behavior is actually the story of America, how the Americans might like to console themselves with fair play and all that, but that actually every signature event in the country's history has been a case of someone double dealing or lying, or we shall see. we shall see. We shall see what it's like. J.M. Fenster is an award-winning author of many works of American history and commentary, and I don't know that I need to agree with her. We shall see. I myself can easily think of many incidents in American history that were the result of valor, disinterested servitude, eager competition. Not always cheating, but we shall see. I imagine it'd be a very angry book, so probably it will teach me a Then this next one is also, I believe, a December release. It's a major thing to come out in December when the publisher, Random House, has to know that most book book review organs are stopping paying attention in early December. So why come out with a major book like this then instead of, for instance, in late January? Or early November, if you know what I mean, something like that. And but anyway, I'm looking forward to this, to say the least. This is edited by John Callahan and Mark Connor, and it is the selected letters of Ralph Ellison, and it's a huge thing, gigantic, and it's the usual thing. It's got annotations, footnotes on the bottom of the pages, and it takes Ellison's letters through from the 30s to the 90s. With his steadily growing fame, his steadily growing prestige in the world of letters and beyond, as a lecturer and as an essayist and whatnot. And I don't think I've read a Ralph Ellison letter in my entire life. Here's going to be hundreds of them in a book that's what is this? 1,000 pages long? Yeah, this is 1,000 pages long. So again, it's right around the corner. It's a major December release, so I am going to dig right into it. Then this next one is, I admit, a favorite subject of mine. Did not know this book was coming out at all. This is from Oxford, and it comes out on the 1st of December, and it's called On Trial for Treason by Maurice Finocchiaro. It's about Galileo. There he is showing church divines the real nature of the world. This is about this deep history of Galileo, and then the history of his trial, and the drama that ensued because of that, because of two clashing worldviews, and what happens if you're a scientist who's just reporting what you see, and the church is also considered a scientific authority. What do you do then if your whole world is against you? And this guy, I don't know this book, but I know this author. This author has been writing about Galileo forever. And most of his other books, if I remember correctly, have been scholarly. They've been fairly abstruse. I don't think I've ever read him, but I see him crop up all the time in bibliographies about this period or about Galileo. This apparently is, it certainly looks like, a more popular run at the same subject. I'm all for it either way. I'm all for it either way. I'm hoping. I've heard a rumor that it's not this guy, although maybe it is this guy, and the rumor is just imprecise. I've heard a rumor that a big Galileo biography is coming out, something along the lines of Walter Isaacson's Leonardo da Vinci biography, something like that, something big and gigantic and comprehensive, and obviously designed for prizes and for the Christmas season and whatnot. And that it's coming out soon, maybe next year, so we shall see. I'm looking forward to it if it happens. But I'll take this, absolutely. And then the last book that we'll deal with here, kind of, sort of, I'm going to add one more at the end. This is a picture book. It's by Sarah Sheridan, and it is the companion book, the picture companion book to Andrew Davies' new PBS adaptation of Sanditon by Jane Austen. Jane Austen's last novel, which is not a novel. She wrote 60 pages before she couldn't write anymore. And Andrew Davies is, of course, immortal as the guy who gave us the definitive miniseries adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. And now he's turning his hand to Sanditon. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you do that, because the story hasn't even properly begun before the manuscript ends. It's just, what is it, 10 chapters, 11 chapters, something like that, 60 pages. So how do you make a story out of that? I have no idea. But I know Sarah Sheridan, because she did a book just like this. In fact, we might have seen it on this channel for the PBS version series on Victoria, on Queen Victoria. And I went into it thinking, okay, so this is going to be costumes and fluffy interviews and maybe some recipes and whatnot. And it had a lot more meat on the bone than that. And this looks like it's the same thing. It does have cast photos. I just opened it to... let me see if I can find him again. I just opened it to... oh no, I've lost him. To dreamy Theo James in his form-fitting vest on the beach. There he is. I opened it to that, but I looked through this just a bit, and it is full of factual stuff. There's a biographical chapter on Jane Austen. There are bits and pieces on what travel was like, what the seaside was like, what libraries were like, what clothing was like, what inheritance was like, what music was like. And Sarah Sheridan did the same thing for Victoria, and it ended up being more than it needed to be. these things don't need to be much. This is just a companion to a series, which is on PBS. I gather that the old folks refer to that as television. I'd love to know if this is streaming somewhere where normal people can watch it on a tablet, but one way or another, I'm expecting more from this than just pretty faces, than just a row of pretty faces. And that ends the Friday Reads, with one exception, which of course I will not be reading because it's Nonfiction November. But nevertheless, I had to show this to you because talk about a tough act to follow. This is a novel by Kate Reardon of Sanditon. How would you like to share that byline? Jane Austen. Oh, and also Kate Reardon. This is her novel. The novel that she writes out of what Jane Austen left us of Sanditon. How's that for an intimidating task? So I will read this in December. I have no idea what to expect. No one today writes like Jane Austen, and I'm not sure that they would if they could. And what do you do? I mean, what do you do with this? I haven't even looked inside it yet. So what does Kate Reardon do? Does she give us the first the chapters that Jane Austen wrote, and then take off from there? That's even more intimidating. Jane Austen practically ends it in mid-sentence. You're going to take up where she left off? Oh God. well, we shall see. It could be that she gives Kate Reardon just the springboard that she needs. It really does bring to mind, though, the pathos of Sanditon, the pathos of this novel, Jane Austen feeling sick, feeling poor, pain increasing every day, and knowing, really, I mean, she was nobody's fool. She was as sharp as a tack, knowing that she wasn't going to live. I mean, in January she was feeling sick. By late February, I'm sure she knew that she wasn't going to live. And I think it was March that she died. So, or it was certainly March that she stopped writing the book. And imagine that. Imagine the pathos of that. This person lived to write. Imagine the pathos of simply not being able to continue, of dying in the middle of a book that you're writing. Bad enough dying in the middle of a book that you're reading, but it just kills me to think about. So I will be reading Kate Reardon's collaboration with Jane Austen on Sanditon, but I won't be doing it until December. I just wanted you to know this was out there because all these things are in your bookstores. I'm sure they're in the bookstores now, or they soon will be. So we have The World of Sanditon with all of our cast. That is all of our cast. And then we have the world's most prestigious prize, History of the Nobel Prize. We have Cheaters Always Win, new and somewhat irreverent history of the United States. We'll see how much it leaves in and how much it leaves out. On Trial for Treason by probably the world's greatest Galileo expert. So, that's a cause to rush and read it anyway. But it looks like it might be a different tone, too. Let's see here. Impeach by Neil Cashel, about the case so far for impeaching Donald Trump. And The Selected Letters of Ralph Ellison. Great big 1,000-page thing, taking us through his entire life of letters, from when he was a struggling nobody to when the brilliance of his novels started to gain widespread attention, to all that followed from there and all the famous people that he knew. This is fantastic. I thought that I was getting my only late in the season great letter collection with that collection we saw of the letters of Cole Porter. And here we have another one, and this one's even bigger. So I'm not complaining, not at all. So I'm going to wrap this up. That is my Friday Reads. Of course, with the Friday Reads, I want to know what you're doing. So feel free to sing out in the comments. I'll wrap this up for now, but I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.